Hey, it's your boy Chris, Players Pick Podcast, here to shout out my sponsor, Road Roaster Coffee. Road Roaster Coffee makes an amazing array of light, medium, and dark roasts. My favorite is this kick-ass right here. You can check out roadroastercoffee.com and use Players Pick as your coupon code for 20% off your very first order. Enjoy the pod.
Players Pick Podcast. Picks and perspective with Chris Johnson. Palpable paradox.
John, man, it's been a minute.
It has been a minute, my friend.
You've stayed busy though.
Yeah, you got to stay busy these days with all the crazy stuff that's happening in the world.
Yeah.
Especially an artist, a musician, you have to find a way to cope and process. And yeah. So
this is one of the ways we do it, right? Is touch our instruments and try to capture it.
This is my way of coping.
Well, it's better than a lot of other things that you could be doing,
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, man. So, congratulations on a new album you have out here, the solo project, right? And it may be an opportunity because I don't know if I was thinking this morning, I'm like, do I actually remember how to properly pronounce John's last name? Because is it LaMacchia or LaMacchia? LaMacchia. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So that's the title of your new project is LaMacchia.
Yeah, it is. It's actually interesting that you bring that up because initially I was just going to continue on with the solo project that I've had for the past, I don't even remember how long it's been going on. This solo project called SPYLACOPA that I've had for, like I said, 15 years or so. And my manager, Chrys Enriquez, had a conversation with a good friend of ours, this guy, Rob Gross, who does marketing. And he's one of the players in the industry. You might even know him yourself. And he was discussing, he was talking to Rob about, Chris was talking to Rob about me putting out a solo record and how excited Chris was about the music. And Rob mentioned the fact that, it's great that he's doing this, but he needs to rebrand and he should consider using his own name because his name carries weight. And, it would be a great time for him to really reestablish himself. And at first I was kind of angry. It's like, who the hell is this guy, Rob Gross, think he is? And the more and more I thought about it, the more and more I realized that it was absolutely necessary. It was beyond, it wasn't just like a thing that I should consider doing. It was such an important part of why this thing is why people are kind of excited about it, is because it's truly something that's coming directly from me, and the people that are that are involved are just there's no ego involved, like everyone's getting together and they're all on board. And I just have faith from the band members, the people that are playing with me, from the label, from management. It's just anyone that gets involved, it seems like they believe in this vision. And I think it's because I'm finally doing something that is completely from me. And I may not make every single decision, but I think there's this certain trust in me and what I created as far as like the music is concerned. And it just happens, it's just working. And I wasn't expecting that. And it's funny because there was a moment there where I was hesitant about the change, and Chrys Enriquez then kind of like backpedaled. He was like, wait, I asked a few people and they were like, hell no, they love the name SPYLACOPA. And then I was at that point, I was like, no way, we're changing it. This is a great idea. I feel really good about it. And yeah, I'm just psyched about it. So,
well, I've had a chance to listen to it a few times now, and it's really good. Like really good. Like, and I had another buddy of mine that was in one of my old bands for years that we're both fans of CANDIRIA, and I'm all, dude, check out John's new album. We sat here and smoked, and like, he's like, oh, it's not what I go. Yeah, his side projects are always like in this kind of prog mellow, kind of spacey place, which is super cool. But this one it feels more cohesive even than the previous efforts, right? And there's this really steady kind of, you know, late 90s, early 2000s, like I can't put my finger on it, but it's there, you know. And you note like, oh, Radiohead and Autolux and other great bands that, you know, you kind of are feeding off of inspiration wise or like genre wise. But I feel like there's something special about what you've created here with this sonic landscape that I just haven't heard from you before. Exactly, you know, like there's always been these elements floating through your albums, but this one, it seems like there's something really special about it. I think it's really nice to hear your voice and the way it's come through, and kind of there's some raw moments that feel really like kind of intimate. And yeah, man, congratulations. It's really great work.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I think you're right. It is a very it's a very intimate record. It's very personal. It's drawn from you know, very personal experiences throughout the last couple of years. Obviously, if you're an artist, you know, something so intense and isolating and scary, basically, is going to put things in almost maybe a different perspective, or a more clear perspective, you know, where you're seeing things like, you know, I think what the pandemic allowed me to just be like, fuck it. What am I waiting for to really dig deep and just write something truly honest and straight from the soul and spirit. And I, you know, like, I am very fortunate to work with such fantastic musicians on this record. I don't know if you know, but Kelly Scott from Failure played the drums on all of the live drums are Kelly Scott from Failure, which I'm completely in, you know, I mean, look, I'm not special by any means. I don't know if you're aware, he did this incredible thing during the pandemic where he was just like, send me your music. I don't care if you're a beginner or you're a rock star, like you've been doing this for 50 years, send me your songs. I will play drums on your songs and it'll be dirt cheap. And I honestly think it was almost like, I think I've seen a lot of people doing really positive things throughout the pandemic. Two things stand out. One thing is Frank Godla started a thing called Stay at Home Fest, which were these like stay at home music festivals, you know, that, and every one of them was, you know, benefited some you know, some type of group or like, you know, some type of, you know, company that was helping people or something like that.
Sure.
And then there was what Kelly Scott was doing, which was kind of making fans' dreams come true. He was just like playing on everyone's stuff. And I happened to, you know, get wind of this from my bass player, Mike. He mentioned it to me a while ago when I started writing this stuff, and we were figuring out who was going to play drums. And he mentioned Kelly, and then I wound up having a drummer for a short period of time. But then eventually that drummer walked away and I had to redo the drums, and I was like, my God, this is the perfect opportunity. And so that was part of it. And then obviously my bass player, Mike MacGyver from Candiria, plays all of fretless bass on the record. And I have so many awesome musicians. Sabrina Ellie, a vocalist that I've been working with for many years. She's fantastic. A dear friend, someone very, very dear to my heart, who a lot of the album Thunderheads is based on our experiences during the pandemic. This woman, Candice Fresco, she co-wrote the song Angel's Delight with me, which is that Massive Attack vibey type of tune.
Yeah.
And then Andrea Horn, someone who's very close to me as well, another really talented female artist. So I have this great group of people that I'm just so really like. The album is definitely something that's from me, but it's obviously there are other people are involved that just helped make it what it is. And Mario Quintero from Spotlights mixed and mastered the album as well. So all of these players just really, you know, made it really just this fantastic thing. So I'm very happy to take the credit, but it's really partly also because of their work as well.
That's great though. I mean, I love that because a there's very few people that can do a real record start to finish by themselves, right?
Hmm.
There's very few, and some of them can do it. There's even fewer that they can do it, and you don't recognize that it's all one person,
Right,
right?
right.
And most of us have some sort of vision or some sort of wide field of understanding of which direction we're going,
Hmm.
but we depend on other like-minded individuals that understand a little bit about who we are and what we're doing and all this stuff, and to fill in the spaces that we can't quite even fully imagine, you know, and
Sure.
like, and that's like what I love about, like, it's cool. Your bassist Mike is one of my favorite bass players on the
Oh,
planet.
m-
He's
me too.
as a human too. I just like him as
Yeah.
a human, right?
Oh, yeah.
But his playing is incredible, and his
Hmm.
intuition is incredible.
Hmm.
So I love the fact that he's on this album and that
Hmm.
and you guys are still working together.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I think it's such a beautiful thing to set out the basic premise and then just leave the edges a little fuzzy
Hmm.
in some respects and go, hey, like how does this finish?
Right,
Oh, wait,
right,
I think you just did it right there. Like
right.
let's run that back and try it again and refine the process. And
Hmm.
it's still you, obviously. It's still your final decision, final, all these things, but
Right.
yeah, how you put the pieces together.
Exactly, and it's almost like I write these songs and I send them out. Like I sent there's a song called Pagliacci on the record, and at first it was this really simple, very simple acoustic piece, and that's pretty much how it was going to go on the record. And when Kelly Scott came along, um, I he played on two songs called Bled Out and then another one called Put You Down, just two like rock songs, the two openers. And then I had this acoustic piece when I was like, you know what, this is a really cool song, but I wonder what it would sound like if Kelly played drums on it. And Kelly, loved it, and he wrote this. He just made it so much more dynamic, and he made it like these. He just put this human, really truly human feel to it. These light flourishes of cymbal and then just louder moments. And I was like, wow, this could really turn into like this now a song. And then
Mm.
when I passed that off to Mike, now that we had drums on it, playing in Candiria all those years, Mike, I think one of Mike's favorite things to do is to find a way to play off of the drums and do it in a unique and interesting way, not just to be like, kick, snare, but to find a way to sort of connect with the drums. And I think this is something he truly enjoys. And what I got to say, like when I heard the bass lines that he wrote for Paganachiket, I was absolutely blown away. I mean, he
Mm.
added like there's three chords in the entire song. He added bass notes and changed the keys of my chords to make it sound like there's like this whole magical thing happening. And I think that's one of the greatest things about playing with musicians that just understand you as a writer, and then also that are always looking for a way to add their own creativity to something. So
Hmm.
it's a great example of why Mike is one of my favorite bass players, and I'm so fortunate to just have him along for the ride, not just because of his playing, but because he's such an interesting person to talk to. I mean, when we get together I'm playing with the live band is this guy, Jeff Gensterblom, who is a fantastic drummer. He plays in a band called Savak and a band called the Twin, and he's a fantastic drummer. And then Andrea Horn, who is someone I know and also knows Mike for a very long time. But we've never been in a band together. So this is like a new fun band thing.
Mm.
And I got to tell you, man, we all look so forward to when Mike comes in. I hope he doesn't, I kind of don't want to, it's not going to change anything if he hears this, but because he's just him, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But when he comes to the space and he just starts talking and telling stories, he's such a great storyteller, and he has such a great memory. It's actually kind of fascinating how extensive his memory is to these details. I'm just like, how do you remember this crazy stuff. 1998, we were on tour at Neurosis. You remember the guitar was playing at this night, at this venue, this band opened up. I'm like, I don't even remember what I ate for lunch yesterday, you know? But Jeff and Andrea, like, don't know him this intimately, and now they're getting to know him. And we all look so forward to just him coming and telling stories and talking, and just, he lights up the room when he walks into it, basically.
So you've been able to play this material live a few times now? Yes.
Actually, we've done one show so far. We played a show at a place called Elsewhere in Brooklyn, with a band called Shiner and another band called Spotlights. And the first show we played, we opened it up and it was a sold out night. So
nice.
Couldn't have like started this off in a better way. And we had a really, really fun time. And it was just a great experience. But we have another one coming up on Easter Sunday, April 17th. We're playing at Union Pool with a band called Frail. Then another band called Burning Tongue, and another solo act, this guy Zeb Gould, who is a fantastic guitar player. Guitar player. Oh my God. So that's Easter Sunday. Looking forward to it.
Cool.
Yeah.
And did you record this at home mostly, or what was the process for you? Did you kind of do scratch out tracks and then take some to the studio, and what was that? Because I am really impressed with the overall mix and the layout, with how you've layered these beautiful sounds, and you've always done atmospheric stuff, and it's always creeped its way and done well in Candiria too. But it's like, again, I think it's coming together in a really like neat way with this project. So I'm curious a little bit about like how that process happened for you.
Thanks, man. Well, the process really a lot of it was done at home. I really did have, as many people did, I had a lot of time on my hands at home. And I've been working on these songs for quite some time. Some of them go far back. Some of them go as far back as 10 years, like the initial sort of concept or the initial, chord arrangement. I think only one or two of them go back that far. But when I decided, here we go, we're making a record, and I started actually laying down what is actually on the album, most of it was made at home. All the live drums were recorded by a guy named Gabe. I'm not going to pronounce his last name, but it was out in LA, and he's someone who records Kelly Scott all the time. So he recorded all the live drums, except for, I did some live drums on the very last track. There's a track called Why Are You the Way You Are? It's the very last track. It's like this ambient, it's almost like a mantra. I wouldn't even call it a song. And I recorded any live drums that are on there. I recorded them in my studio. Yeah, I recorded a lot of it at home. Mike MacGyver recorded all the bass in his home. It was mixed and mastered in Pennsylvania. So it was kind of, there are these there was this sort of separation in regards to the making of the record. The only person that I really worked closely with was Candace most of the time, because when she was with me, I mean, when this happened, the whole world, locked down, and everyone's world got really small really fast. And she had gone through some really intense personal things in her life shortly before the lockdown happened, and being a single mom and pretty much being alone, with a newborn baby. She needed, not a newborn baby, but the baby, I think at that point was about 6 months old when lockdown happened. I may be mistaken, but around that. And she just was like, I need your help. I need you in my life right now. I just need someone I can trust. I need someone I can count on. And we just became very close really fast. Well, we have been close for a very long time, but like the lockdown, just like, we just came together and spent a lot of time together. And she is a musician. She's a model. She's done all kinds of, interesting video. She's been in a million music videos. She's just that person that you call and you're like, Candace, we need someone to be in a video. And she's just like, hell yeah, this is my thing. So she's a great artist and a really creative person. So her sort of natural state of being, I think, is to be creative. And we just did all kinds of creative stuff during the lockdown. Anytime we got a chance, we would just bust out a camera, do some photo stuff. We would go to like find like abandoned castles and abandoned ruins, and we would just go there and do photo shoots, and just we would work on songs and work on, you know, ideas. I would write songs at home. I'd be working on an album. I'd bring it to her. She would like talk to me about her thoughts on, you know, she was probably the person, she was the one constant sort of person that I was bouncing ideas off of. And then, you know, we collaborated on a song or two. And it was just this experience that I'm so grateful she was there for me to, like you said, it's you know, even if one person is creating something, it's there's always these other forces that sort of help sort of shape it slightly. And she was definitely a huge and a major part of the reason why the album turned out the way it did, basically. Yeah,
that's cool. I'm so glad that you had the both of you had some sort of anchor during that time.
Yeah.
Because this has been obviously difficult for everyone somewhere, somehow. And,
sure.
You know, multiple of my friends have had multiple dark nights of the soul, you know, like what questioning everything through the process, especially the ones, you know, I mean, maybe more so in some ways, the artists, you know, that are normally, you know, wanting to be out touring or in a regular sense of stimulation to create. And then this is like a whole another level of like, it's like, oh, I have all this time to do the thing, but I'm also like not like socially stimulated in the same ways. And so
Right.
sometimes that creative energy can get stuck because we're kind of being asked to be stagnant in a way.
Sure.
And I mean, for myself, I had a lot of time, but you know, it's like, can I actually utilize that time, you know? And it's great to hear that, you know, some people were able to work through it and to find other cohorts to work through it with.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to have come together with someone who's always inspired me to be creative. And it was really, like I said, when we first started talking, this is my way of coping and my way of dealing with grief. I find that like when I'm grieving is when I want to write the most. And maybe that's why a lot of the music I write has a somber quality. I mean, that's an understatement. I'd say there's some really dark, some heavy-hearted songs in this record. But I will say, like, you know, day to day, I wake up feeling really good. I'm not this depressed person. And I think it's because I'm very fortunate to have this outlet. This outlet allows me to kind of rip the stuff out of myself and put it out there in a way that I can, you know, I can perform it, I can rehearse it, I can sing it. It's like therapy. It's like, I don't know. It's almost like a way of meditating in a sense. And I feel very fortunate. I feel bad for people that don't have some way of vocalizing or, you know, writing the words down or turning it into a piece of art. It's just kind of crazy. I think I count my blessings, you know, when it comes to that kind of stuff. And then to have people come around you and say, hey, this is great. We want to put it out. You know, we want to put it out on Aqualam Records. Or, you know, have someone come along like Chrys Enriquez, who is, you know, he's a very motivated person. And to say he doesn't have some power in the music industry would be, you know, selling the guy short. He definitely is someone who's very well respected in my circle, at least, you know, the circles that I kind of roll in. So he's definitely someone who can make things happen for me, and he has. To have someone like him come along and be like, hey man, I want to manage you. I believe in what you're doing. You know, that just to me is like, man, and then it becomes something so much bigger than just me. This isn't just for me anymore. This is for anyone who's feeling the way or has, you know, felt the way I felt while I was writing these songs or while I was going through this stuff, whatever I was like getting my heart ripped out or whatever. And, you know, we've all been there, you know, so this is, you know, it becomes something where you like this, you just zoom out and you're like, holy cow, this is something that could help a lot of people, you know, and it's a great feeling to know that it's just not about me anymore, you know, that it's just really, let's get these songs out there and hopefully they can do some good, you know.
That's great. So in the process of writing, you know, gear wise, do you just like use any one main guitar, or have you been using multiple guitars in this process? Because I know you have a kind of a small collection there of like, I know you have that classic Ibanez
It's
and
funny.
a couple others, right?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I I am such a I'm such a weird guy when it comes to gear and stuff. I have so much gear, but I would say 90% of it is just not in a functioning state. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Everything is in disrepair. Everything is there's just I can't use that guitar right now. The pots are dirty. Oh man, I can't use that right now. The intonation is out. I'm sitting next to a guitar. There's two tuning pegs missing from it. It's just a mess over here. It's just
Bro.
something I was never really good at was this guy that kept his gear in top shape. Are you the same?
No, I actually do keep my shit in pretty good shape. But there was a season where I didn't, and but it was different. For a while, I only had like cheap guitars
Mm,
because I had a season of having really expensive guitars, and I got freaked out about
yeah, yeah,
anybody touching or looking at my shit.
yep, yep,
And I
yep.
was like, and this was like when I in my early 20s. So I was like,
Mm,
bro, I have this $3,000 guitar. Don't, if you break a string, like you're
yeah,
replacing it. And I was like in this weird place. And then I felt like a dick most of the time.
hmm,
And I don't want to feel like that with my instruments. And so then I
sure,
went through a season of like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to get guitars. I'm going to keep them up, but like, I can't, I don't want to be stressed out like that. So just like,
sure,
it's just things, it's just stuff.
sure,
So
yeah.
I didn't put as much importance on it. These days, I work with Kiesel guitars, and like I've
Mhm,
got a bunch of super nice guitars, and so I keep them in pretty good shape. But
right.
the problem is now is having too many guitars to restring and to like
Yes.
care
Yeah.
for.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, it's true. It's true. You're right. I do have two guitars that I use specifically for this project.
mm,
One is a Fender Jag Stang, which
oh,
is a night. It's actually a '96. I think it's a 50th anniversary. So it's a really, really fantastic guitar that I came upon by very odd chance. And an ex-girlfriend of mine was leaving the city, and she had all kinds of instruments laying around, and she was like, I just can't take them with me. Will you give me $50 for this guitar? And I
what?
was like, I'll give you 100.
Jeez,
And I mean, it's here. It's in good hands. I mean, if she ever came back and ever needed it or anything, or ever wanted to borrow
sure.
it, I mean, it's here. But it is a beautiful guitar. It works really, really well for this style of music that I'm playing. That has a really, it's really interesting when people always talk. They kind of are curious about how this compares to Candiria. Like how, and it really truly doesn't. And I think that's why I was so excited to do something like this, because first and foremost, before I joined Candiria, I did most of what I did was closer to sort of the rock stuff that is on this record. It's
Mm,
really more, 90s inspired, just straight up rock stuff. That's just kind of like my comfortable, where I'm comfortable, when I want to
sure.
write from the heart. Um, but the Fender guitars are great because I want that open, overdriven, sort of full chord sounding, thing where you hear all the notes, but there's this gain and distortion. So I think the Fender guitars are great for that, and so I use the Jag Stang for some of the tunes. And then I have my Ibanez Studio 55, which is my go-to. I used that for Candiria for many years, and I also use that for this project because it's just downright. It's my favorite guitar. It's my favorite guitar I've ever played.
That's
And if I
cool.
could have 20 of them, I would.
That's a
You
beautiful
know,
guitar, man.
they're
It's
they're
that's when
so,
I think of you playing that guitar.
mhm. That is just, oh my God. I just can't. It's such a great instrument. It's so well balanced. It's just all mahogany. It's one piece, it's just a gorgeous guitar. And I swear, like, people, there's when we were on Warp Tour, I forget who it was that there was a moment where I was on stage. I had extra time for a sound check. Sometimes you get up on the stage and Warp Tour, you have like 5 minutes and you gotta go.
Yeah.
But this day I had a good amount of time. I don't know why that was. I think it was because we were the first band on. I forget what band the guitar player. I think maybe Silent Planet, maybe.
Oh,
Anyway,
is it Mitch?
I'm not sure at this point. I forget. There's so
It's
many
a great
bands.
band. So
They
one of,
are fantastic.
yeah,
So many musicians on Warped Tour, though, so it's hard to remember who this was. But I
yeah.
remember they came up on stage and they just wanted to play my guitar and they wanted to check it out, and they did, and they were like, at first when he was playing the guitar and playing through my rig, I thought to myself, my God, these younger guys, they have all different kinds of crazy stuff. This might feel like archaic to him. He plays through like a fractal rig. Who knows?
Yeah.
But then I found out that moment was really like an inspiring moment for him, and he wound up going out and buying a Studio 50 and
Ooh.
becoming a fan of the 70s, 80s Ibanez. I mean, I love the old Ibanez guitars. I can't get enough of them. I mean, it's just crazy. It's crazy. I love them so much. My latest obsession is there's this amazing musician. I think she's from Vancouver. Her name is Aura Kogan. She's this awesome, like I would call it, I don't know, experimental pop. It's in the wheelhouse of kind of what I'm doing. It's like some of it is acoustic, some of it is like these heartfelt songs, some of it is electronic, some of it is like weird and out there. But she plays this Ibanez guitar, and it's not a Blazer, it's not a Roadstar, it's not a musician. It's something right in that era, though. It's right. And I've sent her messages being like, what the hell are you playing? And she just never writes me back, so I'll never know. But I mean, if you get a chance, check out Aura Kogan. She's a fantastic musician.
How do I spell her first name?
Ora, and then her last name is Cogan. And I would love it if you can check it out, and maybe you can find out what the hell Ibanez guitar this awesome human being is playing.
Okay.
Because I would love to know, because I would love to see if I can find one.
Aura Kogan. Okay. Well, I mean, she sounds interesting anyway. So,
yeah, she put out an album that I'm literally obsessed with it, called Bells in the Ruin. And it's a fantastic record. And it starts off sounding like some kind of like psych rock thing, sort of close to like Mazzy Star or some of the Hope Sandoval solo stuff. And then it goes into this crazy like rhythmic Radiohead sort of free jazz thing. And so it's kind of all over the place. And it's such a beautiful, awesome record that I love people that make records like this, that just like, this is what's around me. This is a thing that I can use to make a sound, and that I'm going to do something with it. And it's just so inspiring to hear people make music that way. I love it.
Yeah, that's great. So I like that you dropped the name Mazzy Star. It's funny, when my buddy Don was here, we were listening to your tunes, and he's like, this almost seems like a band that would have been like, have a track on the Crow soundtrack or something like that. He listening to your thing. He's like, well, that's awesome. Appropriate. Yeah, I would. I was like, I feel like that's the thing, but Mazzy fits in that kind of era for me too,
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I love all of that sort of dark rock, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds.
Totally.
Mazzy Star, and even the solo stuff, as I mentioned, the Hope Sandoval stuff, any of the solo stuff that she's done is just fantastic as well. Anything, all the PJ Harvey stuff and like all of that stuff, because it all kind of like, I don't know. I mean, looking back on all that music, I realized that it has such an influence on sort of the whole like witch house sort of like kind of music thing that's happening now, or that was happening a few years ago, that was really popular. Bands like Crosses and groups like musicians like Chelsea Wolfe and artists like Frail, who are a band on Aqualam Records. I would imagine that some of that had to have an influence on them, this doomy sort of like psychedelic, dark kind of music that just is so, to me, I mean, give me the dark stuff, man. Like that's where I live, on the road with Candiria all those years. I was in the back of the van with my headphones on, listening to the most dark, depressing music. And I was just like in heaven,
Hey, that's cool, man. It whatever soothes the savage beast, like we have our own different ways of chilling out and feeling grounded in our lives and in our efforts. And you know, like that's cool that you're, you know, that you're able to bring it full circle, right? Because you kind of did a lot of this before, it sounds like, and then CANDIRIA came into your life, and that's been a real, I mean, obviously a roller coaster ride for you too, because
Oh yeah.
like, you know, in the band and doing the things, and then the band always seemed to like put out a great album, and then I think, you know, admittedly, you guys never got to tour as much as was needed for any one album,
Sure.
except for towards the later years, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, and I mean, I'd like to know more about that too, just in the sense that um, CANDIRIA is obviously so kind of genre breaking and like smashing things together that you just wouldn't find together in any other place. Like, what are you, you know, that must come from obviously the organic combination of the people that are there, right? But you know, was everybody interested in making jazz, hip hop, metal? Or was like one person kind of more hip hop, one person a little more jazz, and then everybody agreed that metal, hardcore was a part of the blood too? Or like, how did that come around?
I honestly do think that Ken, well, it's pretty obvious that Ken really had a huge impact on, you know, those guys even before I was in the band, back in the early years, making the original, you know, the original demos, and then finally the first album, Surrealistic Madness. Ken's influence on these guys was massive because he was such a great player, and he was such an exciting person to make music with. I think he turned them on to all kinds of great stuff. From the hip hop aspect of it, obviously, and I don't know, not because he's black, but because Carly was, you know, came from a different sort of background, he brought in a hip hop influence that I think, you know, that was just, I think that the interesting thing was, I guess the bottom line was we were all, even when I joined the band, we were all turning each other on to different types of music. And I think the openness comes from where we grew up. We grew up in New York City. I mean, you know, I can't help but for, you know, certain types of music to just be in my blood and in my mind. You know, I'm not a freestyle music fan by any means. I don't go to freestyle shows and dance like to Diamond Girl and all that crap. But I know the lyrics. I know the songs when they come on. It's in my brain. It's in my heart. It's in my blood. I'm a New Yorker. I can't help but that's just part of my makeup. It's like hearing, you know, when I walk into a subway station and there's a saxophone player down there and he's practicing scales and he's just trying to make a couple of bucks, and I hear that sound, and it's the most New York thing to me, is to hear a musician practicing or trying to make a couple of bucks. That's a rite of passage in this city. You know what I mean? To go in those down in those subway stations and just, you know, whatever, you're playing to strangers. It's the hardest, you know, sort of crowd you'll ever play to, is a bunch of completely miserable strangers waiting for their ride home or to work. So there's just, you know, the way we grew up, it's just, you know, you can't help but be influenced by what's around you. You really can't help it, for better or for worse, you know, and for us, it was, that was just a thing. I think it was the members of CANDIRIA, it was our way of taking those influences and turning it into something positive and unique that we could call our own.
It's cool because it's when I found you guys, I found you guys in '99. I was here in my hometown, in Chico, California, working at Tower Records. And they didn't have like a metal section, but my boss knew how much I was into metal, and he was like, "Oh man, you know, if you want to curate and put a metal section together, and as long as you keep it up and buy cool stuff, you know." And one of the hardcore kids, he was a couple of years younger than me. He was like, he wasn't really into metal, but he was into heavy stuff. Anything that kind of crossed into hardcore, he was always in, like, looking at these magazines and like ordering, you know, up and coming bands. And he was like, "Oh," he's like, "this band, I've heard the Surrealistic Madness, man. I have that." He's like, and this is when Process of Self-Development was out, and he's like, "You should get that new one, put it in the section." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'll put it on the list," and ordered it. When it came in, I was like, just totally blown away that like somebody could be, you know, putting all this together and it be so heavy and progressive, and and like it was mind expanding to me.
Mhm.
And then as I explored through the catalog, that what was present there, and um, it sounded like that. It sounds like New York. You guys have always kind of sounded like where you come from.
Mhm.
And the more I go back and listen to it, the more there's all these little things. I don't know. I'm sure most of it is all intentional, but like I can remember like just like air in the room or like city sounds and different things that you guys have kind of mixed in these little weird moments where if you're not paying attention, you're not going to catch it, but it's
Right.
there.
Yeah, sure. It is
And
totally there. And it's funny you say that because we recorded most of the albums on Fourth Avenue in Brooklyn. Actually, no, it's a Fourth, no, Third Avenue in Brooklyn, off of Sixth and Seventh Streets, Third Avenue between Sixth and Seventh Streets, and you know, you're not going to keep the city sounds out of those recordings if you're recording with like condenser mics, you're recording with room mics. So there would be times where we would make these very these decisions to be like, you know what, the street is busy right now. Let's stick a mic out the window and let's record a little bit of something because it's going to wind up on this track anyway. So let's just go with it. Ken would always find ways to incorporate sounds of the city in the recordings. I think there's a track on Surrealistic Madness. I forget the name of it, but it's like car horns and like gates opening and shutting and all this crazy stuff. I did a recording on 300% Density. This a piece of music called Mass, which was actually written for a dance piece that this woman, this young lady I was dating at the time, she went to Hunter College and she was a dance student, and she asked me to compose a piece of music for a dance piece she was working on. And it's a piece called Mass. And the band heard it after I, put it together, and they loved it, and they wanted to put it on 300% Density. But in that recording, there are subway sounds. There's sounds of people, spouting, like, I think poetry at West 4th Street, some random person. So yeah, I think it's like, it's such a beautiful like city to listen to, in my opinion. Like, if you have your ears open, you can hear some of the craziest shit you'll ever hear in your life, and some of the most beautiful stuff you'll ever hear in your life. And I'm an avid collector of experiences in New York City. My phone is loaded with just random weird stuff that just people say and do, or I'll just hear, like I said, a saxophone player playing. And I think I caught a guy playing in Prospect Park by the lake, and he's just playing. I mean, imagine walking through Prospect Park. You're out there and you're just trying to get some fresh air, and all of a sudden in the distance you hear this baritone sax playing, and you're like, "What? This is so beautiful!" And then you get closer and closer, hit the record button on my phone, and I'm just like, I'm in heaven. You know what I mean? That's heaven to me. Yeah. And you just catch somebody playing, and or cello player. It's just amazing. And I record music. I record sounds in New York all the time. It's just part of what I do. And I think the guys as well, they've done that throughout the years.
It's so cool. Yeah, it's like, well, New York is such a rich tapestry and a melting pot of styles and people and stuff. And again, like the music, in CANDIRIA, it's interesting thing, because when there's, it's like got the aggression part and the hardcore element, which is like appeals to, the heavy-handed person, and it's like kind of, wants to express themselves in that way. And then when it breaks into a jazz piece, it's like, I mean, for me, it seems, I'm like, yes, like somebody finally like allowed these things to coexist in the same place. But that's what New York is this coexistence of
100%.
like all these different points of view. And you just took like really three dominant things in my mind, but there's all these other gray areas in between it. But the three dominant, like hardcore, metal, hip hop, and jazz, and in an interesting way, you guys have stitched these things together through the years that sometimes they kind of blend in the same part. But you guys are one of the unique bands that allow the hardcore grind it out and then give way to like authentic sounding upright bass jazz, and then give way to authentic sounding hip hop with electronic beats that come in and stuff. I don't know. It's just so unique. And I think that the combination of what you guys have done, it'll never be replicated in the way that you guys have done it. And so, it's one of those things to marvel at when I look back. And then when I was spinning Process of Self-Development, but then it was like I'd moved to Seattle shortly after that came out, and you guys a few years later dropped 300% Density, which arguably is my first. It's hard to say pick a favorite, but that might be my favorite record, just in that. Also the level of jump, I feel like, in production and overall like togetherness, like of the overall sound, like jumped like 3 or 4 levels between albums.
300%.
300. That's about that much.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting point you make about production value, because that was like we had just signed a Century Media, and I think that was the biggest recording budget we'd ever had.
Oh, really?
And we were at a point where, we just did this label in Europe called Tentacles Industries, just put out a 20th anniversary vinyl, first time on vinyl for that record, and it sold out in a day and a half. It was like gone within hours. It was like insane. It was crazy. I'd never seen anything like it. But I call that album like the Candiria kitchen sink, because we literally packed that album with every single possible idea that we could possibly fathom. And truth be told, some of the most technical and most difficult parts of that album, it was written by Mike. Mike wrote some guitar parts on that record that are just to this day, I'm like, how the hell, in God's name, why did you write this? Why?
Because I could.
Because like at that point we were all so in the mix, and we were really, as far as like that sound and style and that combination, that fusion of styles, we really were at the height of it. And when I won't say the top of our game, but we were at the height of it. And when I say that, I mean, like, after that, it's no surprise that we wound up moving in different directions, because at that point we literally did. We wrote a record after we put out 300% Density, and then we got picked up by Lakeshore Records, which was this was a massive record deal. It was like unbelievable. We were given our own subsidiary label. We were given scripts to movies. They handed me the Underworld script, which I never got to write to because we got hit by the truck.
Right.
We got put in movies, like our music was in movies like immediately. This was a huge thing for us. So we put out the Coma imprint, which was this sort of a repackaging of the second album, Beyond Reasonable Doubt, which really didn't sell much. So we felt we need to put this out into the world in another way. Let's like rebrand it and put it out there again. And then there was a second disc that had all of the other stuff, like the hip hop stuff, the electronic music that we were working on, Ghost of the Canal. And what it was we were presenting something that, like, this is the future of what we're going to be doing. We're going to be putting out hip hop albums. We're going to be putting out free jazz records. We're going to be putting out electronic music. This is the first taste of it. Long story short, that we wound up getting hit by the truck, and that all kind of went away. But the point is, after that, we tried to make another Candiria album that had the fusion of hardcore and metal and hip hop and jazz. And we made pretty much an entire album, and we wound up scrapping the entire thing because we just were like, Carly was like, that's it, guys. I can't just do this anymore. I want to sing. I want to do different things with my voice. I want to write a song, for God's sakes. Can you guys write a chorus? Can you give me something simple? I can't work like this anymore. So that's where we kind of made that big shift. It was at that point. And like I said, it was because 300% Density was such a rich album with this technical aspect to it, this like vast sort of like venture into like all different types of crazy time signature stuff, and then like just these ambient sort of 15-minute things, and just like we just packed it all in there, man. We didn't leave
Dude,
1 minute from that off that CD.
when I want to like blow somebody away, I'm like, oh, bro, you haven't heard you don't know Candiria? Oh, well, let's listen to Constant Velocity because
Thank you.
like we gotta like I'm just like here's wait, hold on. Fucking hit, bro. Usually it's when driving in the car. I've done this like 5 times to 5 different friends, you know, through the years where I'm just like, we're cruising and we're blazed. And I'm like, okay, here we go. Like, this is like high art to me. It literally high. I'm like, we're high, and then it feels like art, but like it just because there again, like there's, you know, there's so many ways to conform to natural song form, right? Like it on one and I, from this era, I honestly was like, man, Candiria, Meshuggah, Dillinger Escape Plan, they're the highest form of music because they're not conforming to all this ready-made formulas, right?
Sure.
So you guys hit me at the right time. I was like, oh man, and I was all snobby about it. I was like, man, no, you guys don't get it, like. And then, you know, it's funny that Carly is like, hey, at some point, hey, I would, you know, if something I could sink my teeth into would be kind of nice.
Sure.
You know, because as you know, at some point, oftentimes, if you've spent that much time being avant-garde and like never repeating a thing in your music, you know, and then you kind of mellow out a little bit at some point. You're like, oh, maybe it would be nice to like sing something twice and like let the crowd like.
Yeah, you're right. It's funny because, and actually on 300% Density, it's the first time I think the band touches on that with the song Without Water. There's actually a chorus in it. And there's, you know, there's just choruses in the hip hop stuff. And it's not to say that the band, you know, but truly, like it was really more, it's like a really, you know, kind of extreme form of progressive music where like there's nothing about the first part. There's nothing about the last part that, you know, has nothing to do with the first part of the song. It's like just the vibe of it is all the same, you know?
Right.
But yeah, man, I mean, I appreciate the fact that you felt that way because, you know, those guys, the guys in Dillinger and Meshuggah, those guys were our, you know, we looked at them like when we were these bands that sort of were like, you know, raising eyebrows and not always in a good way, you know, when we were first starting out. We really like kind of sort of, I would say we turned to each other, you know, like when Meshuggah first came to America, you know, they specifically were like, we want to play with Candiria, we want to play with Dillinger. It was like, those are the guys. It was like almost like these are the bands that like we're almost like a little, like 3 little tribes that just kind of like, oh, are you guys still there? We're gonna get through this because you know, we never took the easy route. Not because we were cool or anything. I think because we're stupid in a way. Like we just never wanted anything to be easy. And when when Candiria did finally establish themselves as this, you know, act that blended these styles and did this crazy thing, and that's what we were known for, we changed gears, change everything up, and go in a different direction and alienate half of our fans. Just the way we roll.
yeah. But hey, look, you know, not everybody gets so lucky as to get hit in a big wreck. All right, you know, I mean, and I say that lightly because that's a horrible thing to have happen. But in a lot of ways, I think, you know, you could speak to this, to like how it shifted everybody.
1,000%.
And then what doesn't kill you is a phenomenal album. Like I was a little bummed when I first put it in. I'll be honest. I was like, oh, well, that's good. Carly sounds great. And in the and like it, what, like there was enough complexity going on in the music that it didn't really like alienate me as a longtime fan. But and then after like the third lesson, I was like, actually, this is really good. Okay. Fuck, these guys kind of like, they just was a curveball. I wasn't expecting that. And then you came through on tour in May. I don't know if you must have been, I've seen you guys in Seattle a couple of times, but super good. After I seen it live too and got to be in the pit and like be a part of the music, it really set in. And I was like, oh wow, okay, so if this is where Candiria is going, they're going to be one of the biggest bands. Like that was my next thing. I was like, okay, now they're not going to be a secret. I'm gonna have to share them with everybody, and that sucks for my hipster, you know, like cool guys vibe. But and then, it looks like there was turmoil post that record, right?
Sure.
And then Kiss Alive was difficult to put out.
Sure, yeah.
Sounds like.
Well, there was a lot of things going on at that time. I mean, after the accident happened, I was sort of kind of telling you a bit of the story about what was happening. We had just been signed to Lakeshore Records. We got this huge deal, and it was the opportunity of a lifetime, basically. And then we were hit by the truck, and everyone suffered severe injuries. And after some time passed, we knew, okay, what are we going to do? We're all going, we can't go broke. We got to do something. We're all, our sort of the way we, make our money is what little money we make is by going on the road and playing shows and stuff. And that ended. So we turned to Lakeshore and we said, okay, well, we're okay enough to start writing and start potentially getting in a studio. And there was a budget for that. We had a pre-production budget. We would we had a rehearsal. We had all of these budgets set aside. It was this, like I said, this was a legit big record deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we asked them about it, they said no. They said no. We're not gonna give you any money right now. We're not gonna do that. And after some time passed, I'm not gonna get into all the times they said no, but we realized what was happening. We were being shelved, and we had to find a new home. And the only person who was willing to give us a decent deal and we had to pay to get out of the Lakeshore deal. That's how horrible these people are.
Bummer.
I'm just putting that out in the world. These are not nice people.
Mm.
Here you are, you have 5 people that almost just lost their life. They were all injured. And not only do you not follow through on what you agreed upon, but now you're asking them for $50,000, which
brutal.
$50,000. So we found this guy, David Bendeth, who's a producer who, he's produced some incredible albums throughout his career. He's like a phenomenal producer, phenomenal mix engineer, phenomenal songwriter. And he came along and he was like, I will sign you to my new label, Type A Records, under one condition. I want to produce your album. And that was a really interesting thing, because I was like, I don't want to be produced by this guy. This guy has nothing to do with anything that we do. He has no idea about anything that we do. He doesn't understand. He's never even barely knows anything about the music scene we come from, blah, 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 blah. I said all these things. Ken felt the same way, and I did. And the first meeting we had with him, we walked out. Me and Ken walked out. We were like, there's no way. This is silly. And then the more we talked amongst ourselves, the more we realized that this isn't about, any one of us personally. And it took me a long time to really grow the hell up, basically, and realize that this wasn't about me. This is a band. This is about, if someone has a vision or someone has an idea, you're supposed to get behind them and back them up. Not, it's not what I want to do, all of that kind of thing. So there was a lot of that. There was a lot of trust that had to be given. Carly was not a singer at this point. He wanted to sing, but he was a long way from it. And we were working with him and we were hearing him sing. And it was definitely something where he was learning something new, and we just had to have blind faith. And we did. And it took a long time for us to finally get to the point where we put that album together and put it out. And we did, and it came out great. The mixes were great and everything. But on the road, what I was going through personally with my struggle, I was struggling with addiction at that point with opiates, because I'd been friggin' hurt. And now they're shoving, not shoving these pills down my throat, but
sure.
It's just something I wound up leaning on. And things were not good for me at that point, and I needed to get off the road. So I did. There was this turmoil. And I walked away from Candiria for a very short period of time. I think it was 8 months. And I was like, what? Wow. I was like, this is my family. But everything changed at that point. I mean, everybody was going through something similar, like what I was going through. We were all struggling with what had happened. We were struggling with things that had happened recently here. This is a year after 9/11. Right. That the accident happened. I realize now how much trauma we were all sort of recovering from, and why it was so easy to just slip into whatever was comfortable. And you know, it was a tough time. So yeah, there was a lot of turmoil. There was a lot of change. There was a lot of different things. And quite honestly, being on the road with the bands we were touring with and singing the songs from What Doesn't Kill You, it just wasn't saving me. You know what I mean? It wasn't saving me personally. And it wasn't until many, many years later that I really like, now I listen to What Doesn't Kill You and I hear the charm and the beauty and how awesome it is, you know. So I've come full circle.
Well, I'm glad that you can finally appreciate it, man, because I know a lot of us out here have been, you know, holding that album and that era precious, you know, while you know, a decade goes by almost, you know, whatever, and we figure, you know, we got this last record while they were sleeping back in 2015, which also a phenomenal record in kind of in a lot of ways. To me, that one fuses almost all the things together. It's maybe a little less hip hop involved, right? But still very cool. Still feels very much Brooklyn, feels very much New York. And and so that, and you guys actually got a moment where you hit Warped Tour, and you guys got some traction on that record for a minute. You know?
Yeah, I mean, While They Were Sleeping is probably my favorite experience making a CANDIRIA album. And it was because we've all matured so much throughout the years. And it was so much more about the same sort of thing that was happening with while we were making What Doesn't Kill You, where it was about trusting people. And the big one, and of course it's always Carly, who's always trying to do these adventurous, challenging things, which I admire him so much for that. He wanted to write a concept album, and the concept was so intricate and deep that it was almost something beyond my ability to comprehend what was actually happening with this story. There's this deep written story that happens throughout that album. I'm not sure if you're even aware. There's this crazy concept story-wise.
I don't know.
If you listen to lyrics and you listen to the album like from front to back, you can understand the story. But the way we were making the album, the reason why it was so difficult for me to understand what was happening was we were writing music for Carly in the CANDIRIA style, and he is trying to put a story together, but he has to take the parts of the story and find the music that suits that moment in this story. Like, you know what I mean? So he needed aggressive music at certain points. He needed something sad and sort of endearing, you know, at a certain point. He needed something more, you know, upbeat and sort of jazzy and free, you know, and he needed all these things, but like, I didn't know what any of this meant. Like, I'd hear him talking about this female character, Maria, and he's singing about Maria. And next thing you know, I hear another character's name, Oren. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, what the hell is happening here? And it got to a point where I was talking to Mike, and me and Mike were like, look, man, we're just going to have to talk to Carly and just be like, look, man, this is crazy. I don't understand any of this. This is weird. And like, we can't do this. Let's not do a concept album, please. And it wasn't until, well, Carly obviously convinces, no, we're doing this.
I was gonna say.
She's like, no. Trust me, I got this. We're like, all right, dude. And then finally, it wasn't until he laid out, we finally got the mixes and he laid out the songs. I swear to God, this wasn't until the album, I heard the album in series where I was like, oh my God, it really does all make sense. It really all does. It's so amazing. This is so incredible. I was blown away. It took Carly a year to write the story. Wow. And then he took all of it and somehow edited it in a way that fit these songs. It's such an incredible accomplishment. And I'm completely blown away by it. The only thing that I am disappointed in is the fact that a lot of people have no idea that it's a concept album. They have no idea, none at all. Because CANDIRIA music is very cryptic. You know, so it's difficult. But I do also love the fact that, you know, the album's out in the world, and the fact that it's a concept album, that's also out in the world. So the people that search for it, they'll find it.
Sure. Yeah. You know? Well, and yeah, that can be a difficult part. Like I think the the reoccurring theme in my brain is that when you're breaking ground, and concept records, even though it's not a new idea,
Hmm.
to the average music listener, it's a stretch for a lot of people because
Sure.
they're like, oh, play me a song,
Right.
and you're like, yeah,
Right.
here's a song, but this is a piece of a greater story, and
Hmm.
and you have to like framework for. Oh well, I don't have time for a whole album right
Sure.
now,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So you have that to. But anytime like you guys as a band were already through most of your career fighting to establish yourself as people that don't play by the regular rules and like try a bunch of different things anyway, and so it's it's not a stretch for you guys to do something this cool on this album, and then it kind of maybe largely even go unnoticed by your fans, even because people are just like, oh, put the record on, and then
Sure.
don't absorb it in the way that maybe you had intended. And I think that that's kind of the strange risk of an artist. Anytime we're like, oh, I got this really kind of like unique idea,
Hmm.
that could be a blessing or the curse, right? Eventually, hopefully it's the blessing, but in the beginning, getting the concept communicated or
Sure.
to be accepted can be the
Sure.
curse. You're like, oh man, you just don't get it. It's like it's
Right.
too deep for y'all. Like I need to you know sit you down and and explain it to you, and then sometimes you're like, oh well, why do I have to, if I have to explain it, I don't you
Right,
know
exactly, exactly. I think though that like I said, Carly, he loves a challenge, and not only that, I think when Carly becomes interested in something, he just embraces it wholeheartedly, and what he embraced at that point was storytelling. He became really interested in writing, as far as like scripts and storytelling, and that really became a huge part of I forgot the name of the book he read. He says it every single time. We did all of these, like for each song in the album we did a short video of him explaining what's happening in this during the story, this
oh cool.
concept thing. We put these out, you know which, by the way, that in itself was such a difficult undertaking, because he had to pretty much write a script and then perform it on camera, like seamlessly,
Oh,
which, if you think is easy, I'm telling you, man, like saying something right, saying all the words right without reading them in front of you, and then like saying them with the right sort of attitude and style.
the
I
cadence.
I cannot even fathom how people do it. It's
Now
just
that
insane to me. It's like it's a talent that I have a newfound respect for after working with him. But he mentioned the name of the book that he read that is basically the inspiration for him writing a concept album.
awesome.
But he like when we were talking about the when we were discussing the idea of making a concept album, all he talked about was writing scripts, was how to write a story, how to write a film, and he was just so interested in it. And I mean, I guess it's the same as like how I am with the way I write. I write because I'm feeling something like really intense. He writes because he's experiencing something really, really, truly intense here, and he wants to then get that out into the world.
Hmm.
So it's similar in that regard, I guess.
Yeah, man, it's great. I'm so glad. I mean, it's cool. Not everybody has a vocalist or a front person like that not only that has so much creative input, and that actually lands on the band, and that everybody is
Sure.
willing to support, and
Oh yeah.
and make happen. So
Hmm.
I want to divert. I've kind of forgotten a moment. I want to ask you about guitar picks, man. As part of the why I have this podcast at all is
Sure. Sure.
to ask you about your relationship with guitar picks. Where did it begin? Was there anybody that influenced you in the early years? Do you remember what your first couple of guitar picks were, and how did you get to play what you currently play?
Well, let me see right here. I have a whole box of them.
Yes, I see some
uh,
that I made
and
for you
this
in there. The Candiria.
Yeah, there's the ones that Dunlop made for me in here.
Yes.
I would say that you know what, my relationship to them is really interesting. Um, Let me find a pic. I want to find it if I have one in here. I'm hoping I do. I should, because come Come on, man. All right, I'll use this one as an example, although it's not the right one. I remember my first experience picking up a guitar pick. My dad bought me my first guitar, which was a nylon string acoustic guitar, and which I still have. It's a gorgeous guitar by a company called Giannini, which is not a very well-known company, but they make beautiful acoustic instruments. And he brought it home, and the case itself had this incredible smell. Like, I will never, ever, that smell is like in my brain. And I think the case, which I still have, if I don't open it often, because if I do, I'm letting out the smell. And and I don't ever want that smell to go away, because I don't know what this material is made of or who polished this guitar with whatever they did it with, because it just has this gorgeous, sweet smell to it. But inside the guitar case, in the little pocket you open up, there was one tortoise shell guitar pick, and it has like, can you see that?
Oh, yeah.
You can see that?
It's got
like that style.
shimmer.
Yeah, that shimmer, but it was more of the see-through brown tortoise shell look.
Yeah.
I don't have one with me, but so that was my first guitar pick, and I cherished it. I really did. Like, it's a strange thing, right? The connection a guitar player has to guitar picks when they first start playing guitar. Guitar picks are like this thing, like this really, they're gorgeous and beautiful. There's all different kinds of them. I remember, like, I wanted every single guitar pick that I possibly came by. I wanted them all. The little baby teardrop ones, the big giant triangle ones, like, I wanted them all. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
And did you play? So that original one, was that kind of like a medium type?
Yeah,
pick, and then
medium.
like,
yeah.
When did you start playing like Tortex? Because I know we made you. I think those are T3s that we made you for from Dunlop. And
yes,
were you playing Tortex through Candiria years too?
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, religiously. My go-to. God, I have one. I'm just gonna dump this whole thing out. I guess. Oh, see, I don't have them because they're all in my studio where my guitars are.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. Wait. So I have one. I went between these guys.
Oh, the yellow.
This one's really worn down. And then the green one.
Yeah. I thought were the black ones that we made for you, weren't those the 88s? Aren't they green?
Yeah, these are
green gauge.
Yep, they're the green gauge. Yep.
Yeah.
But I love this style of pick. The pointier tip. I don't know what you call that.
Yeah, that's a jazz tip, and so that model is the T3. So it's a Tortex, Tortex regular body, but the jazz tip.
Let me hold it up the right way.
Yeah.
I mean, this is my favorite pick I've ever played, and I'm so glad that I became friends with you, and that you were able to make these picks for me. And
so cool.
they still to this day. I have a ton of them, and I try to give them away to fans too, because I mean, even fans even people that don't play guitar love guitar picks.
100%.
Yeah. So, whenever I have the chance, like say, when we did this whole 20th anniversary 300% density thing, like that's an example of where, like, every now and again I'll throw a pick in a package if I know the person, or if they spent this X amount of dollars. I'm like, come on, man, I'm going to give these people a couple of picks, throw a photograph in there, like from my own personal collection of the band or something. But getting back to picks, the T3, that's definitely the perfect pick for me. It is absolutely perfect. It's great.
I love that you said that you shared with us the way you felt about guitar picks, especially in the beginning, and how you wanted them all, and I had a similar experience, in just that I had a few that seemed to work best for me, but I liked having them around, and I it's kind of the same for most guitar player. I'm a ridiculous person too. I've got, a bowl full of them here, and they're scattered everywhere, but it's one of the things that you can take with you anywhere. It can be in your
Sure.
pocket, and it's a reminder of the crew, the group, the gang that you're in. You know,
Sure.
you're in the guitar gang, you
Oh,
know,
yeah,
and like,
yeah,
you know,
sure,
you're like, oh, you're pulling out change out of your pocket. You're like, oh, whoops, let me get, I got 50 cents. There's like 6 guitar picks. Like, oh, bro, do you play guitar? Oh, yeah, yeah. Here's one of my guitar picks, man. Check it
Sure,
out.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and it's
yeah.
like conversation starter, and then the reverse is like you were just explaining, like, you know, it's even non-players. When they get a guitar pick, they're like, oh man, this is the one that John used tonight. This is just like the one that, oh, it has his name on it. Oh, you know, and it's like, so it's such an exciting little piece that that we all can see connects you to your instrument in a very intimate way.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
So
100%.
it's a funny little thing, that it's a funny little phenomenon that is just, you know, developed over the years. And here we are all these years later, and there's just like, it's exponential, the amount of the types of flavors and colors and designs. And I mean, I have this little thing for my artisan picks, right? So I've got a ring box that's just full of all these artisan guitar picks.
That's awesome.
There's stuff, you know, most of these are like 20, 30, 40, $50 a pick, you know, because they're made by somebody in their garage. You know?
I understand. I may have a couple of picks like that. Let me see here. There are, I think maybe you were the one. Was it you? No, it wasn't you that gave me these home, like these wooden picks.
Oh no, not
Someone
me.
gave me a set of these beautiful, like, handmade wooden picks.
That's cool.
And they're really, really gorgeous. So I don't use them.
Sure. Wood can wear down fairly fast.
Yeah.
So.
Here's another one.
Oh yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, they're really, really beautiful. But they do. I don't use them because they wear down quickly. And then there's like, I've been given. Oh, I got one for you right here, which I'm sure you have.
Oh, the Dillinger Escape pick.
Yeah.
Yes, dude, that's awesome. Yeah. I love those guys.
Oh, me too, man.
Especially Liam. Liam's my boy. I love Liam so much.
Such a incredibly beautiful soul, that man.
I mean, yeah, you could search the whole world over, and it'd be hard to find another human that wants to hug you and care for you. And
yep, he is such a sweet human being. I'm so glad I know that person. Here's Fuzz Roches.
Oh, cool.
Fuzz Roches, you know that pedal company, right?
Yeah, they make cool pedals. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Man, I also have. I have so many. There's so many. It's just crazy. But they all, I don't know. It's like sometimes you pick up a guitar pick and you're like, you know what? My pick that I normally play, I can't do this particular thing I need to do with this pick. I can't do it for this recording. I need something different. And you search and you find the right thing. Here's another one of those wooden ones.
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head. That's it. That's why there's so many different flavors. And honestly, from day to day, I mean, I have 3 or 4 like favorite picks, but then I'm always just picking up random things from my bowl here and just kind of seeing, especially like a real light floppy pick that was good for strumming, you know.
Sure. That's
really nice.
Oh man, especially when you're recording an acoustic guitar with like a small, like a pencil condenser or something like that, and you want that almost shaker sound. Yeah. You know what I mean? You want to hear the percussive aspect at the high end. Oh my God.
No, it's wonderful, man.
You can really, that's another cool aspect of like guitar picks, that you can really change the sound of a performance with just by changing your pick.
That's true.
You know?
And just holding something different in your hands, it might just help you approach it slightly different.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, man, I want to ask you, I want to go back real quick and ask you, so maybe clarify, so you guys wrote like a 300% density part 2 and then scrapped it? Is that what I understood you kind of did? Yeah. And is it still around? Would you ever resurrect any of that material? Or
it's something that was written, I think, it was written, I'm almost certain it was written around the time, it was written right before What Doesn't Kill You, from my recollection.
Before the record.
Before we started writing for What Doesn't Kill You. If I hope I said that right. We wrote a bunch of material, and we were rehearsing a bunch of material that Eric had written some stuff and I had written some stuff, and it was in the, traditional CANDIRIA vein. And it just got to a point where everything that we wrote sounded like another song that we had written. Every riff that we wrote, we were trying to outdo this song. We were trying to outdo this riff. We were trying to copy that part in that song. This sounds like this song. This sounds like that transition in this song. It was just like, we just knew that we were at a point where Ken said it best. We're becoming a parody of ourselves. That's what he said. And that was the aha moment when Ken said those words. He says, we're becoming a parody of ourselves. And I was like, he's right. Something's got to change. Something has to happen. And my thought was it was going to be something that happened with the way we maybe tuned our guitars. It was going to be something that happened with the way we maybe approach the way we write our songs. I didn't at all think for 1 second that it was going to be such a drastic change. So it was hard for me. That was a difficult thing to accept, that we were going to change our style that we were so well known for. That said, this record, this material that we recorded is sitting on a DAT tape in my house somewhere. And every now and again I throw it on and I'm just like, man, I know there are fans out here that would love this. The only thing it's missing is Carly, because he just wasn't feeling any of it. He was at that point where he was like, I'm ready to move on and do some other stuff. And he didn't even put his hands on it. He wasn't inspired by any of it. So that was a big challenge for us, for us to put these songs together, and each one of them, for some reason or another, someone would be like, nope. So yeah, that's just sitting there.
Well, I won't be mad if you guys put it out with or without Carly. I mean, it'd be badass if Carly, felt inspired to do something to it. But like, right. I just the thought of it sitting there, on a shelf somewhere, I'm like, damn.
Sure. I mean, look, I'm going to give it a listen again, because, there is a bunch of stuff that I try to make it my business to sort of safeguard the sort of history that the band has, and make sure that, like, with this vinyl release, you know what I mean? Like, there's all of these records, very few of them have been put out on vinyl. So I think it's important that to keep up with format, and like, let's get these records out there on vinyl, because, there are people out there that are going to want it. And this is going to just inject more sort of, I guess, like, awareness of the band in general. You know what I mean? You have to kind of keep up. So, but that said, I have put out a series of rare tracks. It's called Toying with the Insanities, which is a title from the first album. And I put out a series for over the years of rare tracks and remixes and all this weird stuff that I take so much pleasure in putting together these records. And I'd say about a year ago, me, Mike, and Ken were in the process of putting another one of those together. And it just took a back seat because I am full on working on my record and developing myself as a solo artist. So, but it's not forgotten, and it's right here. I need to get back to it, and I need to touch base with Ken and Mike and just and finish some stuff up and get it out into the world. So
well, that'd be cool.
Yeah, man.
No hurry, no worry. I guess, it's just in its own time, right? Because right now is a season of LaMacchia.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Another big congratulations on that. And
Thank you.
I know that you got this Easter show coming up, right? And that's going to be great. And when's the album drop officially?
The album Thunderheads comes out May 20th. It'll be out fully.
Okay, and what's the label?
The label is called Aqualam Records. Okay. And today, as we are sitting here, it's funny, I don't know if you can hear it, but I'm getting all these bleeps on my computer.
Yeah.
It's my Slack going off because we just put out the first video for the first single, Bled Out. So that just came out, and these guys are hitting me up. And the first single came out March 1st. The video came out today. Early next month, we're going to put out the second single, and then the video will follow, then the third single, and the video will follow. And by that time, the album will be out. So
Cool.
it's been a fun journey. I'm enjoying this so much. And, you know, the interesting thing is there's so much that I look at and I'm like, this is so CANDIRIA, you know, with what we're doing, with the process, with the different styles that are on the album. And and sort of the approach we take to the songwriting and the spirit of it. And I hope that there are some CANDIRIA fans that hear that and come along for the ride and kind of are open-minded to the new things that we're doing, because I mean, we've asked that of CANDIRIA fans throughout the entire course of our discography.
That's right.
So hopefully some of them will keep that in mind and you know, keep an open heart and mind to hearing this new music that I've been putting out in the world.
Yeah, man, I think you're gonna get some good reception. What's the best way for people to follow and stay in touch with you? Like, what would you prefer? Do you want them to go to your website or to social media, email list?
Well, on all social media, it's LaMacchia Music. That's on Facebook, that's on Instagram, that's on TikTok. I'm even TikToking these days. Can you believe this?
Oh, baby, yeah.
Yeah, so it's LaMacchia Music. LaMacchia Music, all one word, lowercase, for all of my socials. But you can find LaMacchia on aqualam.org. And yeah, I mean, that's basically it. Just follow me anywhere you like to find out about stuff happening in the world. I would suggest Instagram if you're on Instagram, or Facebook. Those are the two that I'm on the most.
Cool.
So yeah.
And one last question is, because you're so into a lot of esoteric music and stuff that maybe, you know, the world hasn't heard as much of, could you give us one kind of like hidden gem of an artist or an album or a player or something that people should go check out?
Since this is a guitar sort of focused podcast, I'm going to just suggest, and you probably are aware of this guy, but maybe there's a lot of people out in the world that are not aware of this guy. I'm going to suggest to people check out a guitar player called Nels Cline.
Ooh, Nels is amazing.
Yeah, he's incredible. And his discography, going back to the Nels Cline trio stuff, is just fantastic. And quite honestly, that guy, he is the one guitar player I could say that checks all the boxes for me. He's the guy that does it all. And if I could be any type of guitar player, I'd be him. And it's a really great example of that. There's two great examples of two albums that he put out to me that are just like, this is what I want to do as a guitar player, and this is what I want to hear as a guitar player. He has an album called I think it's Silencer. His first album is called Silencer. And then he put out an album called Sad. And those two albums are just, to me, that's it. It's like it's like when I walk up to a counter and I order food, this is exactly how I want it. I'm telling you, this guy serves up guitar playing and guitar music the way I love it the most. So I suggest Nels Cline. Check him out.
Thank you, man. That's a great recommendation. I haven't listened to his solo stuff in a long time. And I had the pleasure of meeting him with Wilco years ago, and he was one of the nicest humans too.
Yeah, and he was.
Yeah, he was super nice, and like,
not to me, he wasn't.
Oh no, that sucks. Well, I was there. I went to Wilco bringing like a little bass amp and I forget the bass player's name right now, but him and Nels, they had me at sound check, and then they like, hey, let's go eat dinner, and like went down to the catering and stuff, and we just hung out, and it was like super cool. Awesome. That's my cool memory, but I that's my only interaction. So I don't, hopefully Nels wasn't too mean to you.
No. Let me explain what happened. I saw Nels Cline, I think it was in 2000. This was at the time we were writing 300% Density. Okay, we were in the middle of writing it, and I was a massive fan at this point. I was turned on. My friend Colin Held, who is another phenomenal guitar player. As a matter of fact, I want to recommend you check out his solo group called Eldin. Let me look. It's either Eldin or Eldlin Cope. I have to look real quick.
Okay.
Eldlin Cope, Eldin, and then the word Cope.
Okay.
Where are you? Where'd you go?
Eldon Cope.
I lost you.
I'm here.
I lost the meeting. Jesus, why'd I do that?
It's okay. We can still hear you.
Okay. Anyway, you're here somewhere. I'll find you.
I can still see you too.
Okay, cool. Anyway, so Colin turned me on to Nels Cline around that time, and I went and I checked out Nels Cline, and I saw him play in a record shop in the East Village, and literally it was me and 4 other people there, and he did a solo performance by himself, just him and his pedals, and it was one of the most phenomenal guitar performances I've ever seen in my life. Second of all, obviously I had a moment to chat him up, and I did, and I approached him, and I just was like, hey man, I'm a huge fan. I play in a band called CANDIRIA, and I was wondering if you would be down to do some tracks for our album. And he was just cold. He was just cold and like dismissive, I guess. And I make it a rule to never ever judge anyone on one experience. I mean, you really don't know what a person's day was like, especially in New York City. And generally generally New Yorkers are sort of they put up a sort of a don't come near me type of vibe, just because there's so much of us packed in all the time. I think that there's a natural way to react to people. So I wasn't like extremely offended. I was just a little disappointed, because how cool would it be if not only was 300% Density what it is, but it also had Nels Cline on it?
Oh, that would have been insane.
Oh my God, that would be amazing, right? In my dreams, that's all.
Well, Nels, if you're out there, John is still making music and a really nice guy, and you guys could possibly collaborate on something, and that would be good for everybody.
Sure.
Well, dude, thanks for all the stories. Thanks for spending time with me on the podcast, and thanks for making awesome new music.
Thank you.
And as a human, man, I appreciate you being so friendly and befriending me and letting me help support the band through the years. You changed my perspective in many ways, but through your music, through the band, and then when I was out in New York, thanks for taking me to barbecue. Thanks for showing me the canal, where the ghost of the canal.
Yeah. That's right, man.
Tried to barf around the canal, but
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and it's my pleasure. I hope we get to do some more of that.
Absolutely. I hope to be out in New York before too long, and I'll definitely let you know when I do.
Please do.
All right, brother. Well, have a great day, and let's be in touch, man. I'll talk to you real soon.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
Players Pick Podcast, Picks and Perspective with Chrys Johnson.
Players Pick Podcast is brought to you in part by our good friends at Dunlop Guitar Products, Diesel Custom Guitars, and our favorite new coffee company, Road Roaster Coffee. Use coupon code PLAYERSPICK for 20% off your first order at roadroastercoffee.com.